Here's what happened across the U.S. in the past hour, all in 60 seconds. New polling shows rising public skepticism of the administration's ICE crackdown after the killing of nurse Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Voters across party lines increasingly question tactics, even as enforcement continues. Border czar Tom Homan said Wednesday the administration will pull about 700 federal officers out of Minnesota while keeping Operation Metro Surge running. He said the drawdown follows new cooperation from local jails on ICE custody. The administration says Minnesota's enforcement surge has led to thousands of arrests of people it describes as violent, undocumented offenders. Officials say they won't back down, while critics question the data and the operation's impact on communities. A federal judge pressed DOJ lawyers after ICE repeatedly failed to release detainees despite court orders in Minnesota. An ICE attorney was pulled from her temporary assignment after telling the judge, "This job sucks," and asking to be held in contempt. The FBI's seizure of 2020 ballots and election records in Fulton County has intensified a legal fight over access to voting materials in Georgia. County officials say the certified results remain unchanged as investigations proceed. The Justice Department acknowledged redaction mistakes in newly released Jeffrey Epstein records that exposed sensitive details, including material that could identify victims. Officials said they removed and reprocessed thousands of documents. The Supreme Court cleared the way for California to use a new congressional map that is expected to boost Democrats. The justices refused to block the plan while a legal challenge continues. Here's what happened across the U.S. in the past hour, all in 60 seconds. House and Senate Democrats laid out conditions for full-year DHS funding, including mandatory body cameras and limits on masks during operations. Republicans say some ideas are workable, but time is running short before a DHS deadline. Two Minnesota school districts in the State Teachers Union sued DHS to keep immigration enforcement away from schools and bus stops. They say recent operations have disrupted attendance and safety, and they want sensitive locations protections restored. Virginia's Court of Appeals sent a redistricting fight straight to the state Supreme Court, calling it an issue of urgent public importance. The High Court will decide whether to take the case and how it affects the 2026 calendar. New York Gov. Kathy Hochul picked former New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams as her running mate for lieutenant governor. The move comes after a law change requiring joint tickets in the Democratic primary. Democrats are framing their DHS funding demands as basic law enforcement standards, including body cameras and clearer rules for ICE operations. GOP leaders say Democrats are blocking a deal and risking a Homeland Security shutdown. Trump escalated his push to expand federal control over elections ahead of the midterms, pointing to investigations and disputes in Democratic-run jurisdictions. State and local officials say election administration is primarily a state responsibility. The U.S. is recruiting Mexico, the EU, and Japan to build joint supply chains for critical minerals and reduce reliance on China. Officials say new trade tools and project planning are coming within 30 to 60 days. Here's what happened across the U.S. in the past hour, all in 60 seconds. Border czar Tom Homan said Wednesday the administration will pull 700 federal personnel out of the Twin Cities as Operation Metro Surge continues. He said improved cooperation from local jails allowed the drawdown, with about 2,000 officers remaining. House and Senate Democrats outlined demands for full-year Homeland Security funding, including body cameras and clearer limits on ICE operations. Republicans signaled some openness, but leaders warned a deal before the deadline is unlikely. Virginia's Court of Appeals fast-tracked Democrats' redistricting appeal to the state Supreme Court, calling it an urgent public issue. The High Court will decide whether to revive the proposed map and how it affects the 2026 midterms. President Trump renewed calls for Republicans to nationalize elections and argued states act as federal agents in counting votes. Democratic officials and some Republicans said election administration is largely a state responsibility under the Constitution. A new Justice Department release of Epstein case records exposed sensitive details after redaction failures, including nude images and victim identifying information. DOJ said it pulled and is reprocessing thousands of files to fix the mistakes. Steve Bannon urged the Trump administration to send ICE agents and even troops around polling places this November. Election officials and voting rights groups warned a heavy law enforcement presence could intimidate voters and trigger lawsuits. New York Governor Kathy Hochul picked former New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams as her lieutenant governor running mate. The move follows a rule change requiring governors to run with an official ticket in the Democratic primary. A federal judge grilled the government after ICE repeatedly delayed releases ordered by the court in Minnesota. An ICE lawyer was removed from her assignment after telling the judge, "This job sucks," and asking to be held in contempt. U.S.-Iran nuclear talks that appeared canceled were put back on for Friday after regional allies urged the White House to keep negotiating. Officials said the meeting will be in Oman and focused only on nuclear issues.